If you've just logged into the webcast, we're going to be starting the workshop in about 2 minutes. All right, it's 1 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Drinking Water for Schools presentation. We want to begin by thanking the San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board for providing their boardroom for today's workshop. I'm Jennifer Hazard with the Rural Community Assistance Corporation, or RCAC for short, and joining me are Ravi Jawanda and Darren Pedroja from the State Water Resources Control Board. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be available at the Cal EPA's website at video.calepa.ca.gov. Today we'll be covering program background, eligible entities and projects, the process for obtaining funding, and documentation of need. Also, how to apply for technical assistance. It should take about 30 minutes to review the program guidelines, and then Ravi and Darren will lead us in a question and answer session. If you're joining us via webcast, you can submit your questions to dfa_grants@waterboards.ca.gov, and we'll be posting this email address again once we start the Q&A session. We'll begin with a brief introduction of the program. Senate Bill 828 added a section to the Health and Safety Code to require the State Water Board to establish a grant program. This is the Drinking Water for Schools grant program, for the purpose of improving access to and the quality of drinking water in public schools, consistent with the intent that school facilities be maintained in good repair. The guidelines for the grant program establish the process and criteria that the State Water Board's Division of Financial Assistance, or DFA, will use to solicit applications, prioritize and evaluate project proposals, and award grants for the program. SB 828 appropriated the sum of $9.5 million from the general fund to the State Water Board to be allocated under the grant program. And Senate Bill 826 made funding in the amount of $500,000 available for technical assistance to applicants. Before we move on to eligible entity types, it will be helpful to keep in mind some of the drinking water challenges facing public schools that this grant program can address, such as water quality and water access issues. This includes contamination, shortage of water fountains, lack of water in cafeterias, inoperable fountains, and ultimately not enough supply to keep students hydrated during the school day. The first key section of the program guidelines describes eligibility requirements, which are determined mainly by entity type, project type, and grant amount. We would like to encourage schools to be proactive in researching these guidelines, and they are posted on the State Water Board's website. Senate Bill 828 limits eligible entities to local educational agencies and public preschools and daycare facilities. Local educational agencies, or LEAs, means a county office of education, school district, state special school, or district-funded charter school as described in the Education Code. All projects must serve disadvantaged communities, and applicants are required to demonstrate a lack of access to safe drinking water. Program guidelines define a disadvantaged community as a rural or urban community with a median household income that is less than 80% of the statewide annual MHI. If MHI information is not available within a school boundary, then DAC status may be based upon the percentage of students eligible for the California Department of Education's free or reduced price meals program using the most current data available. And this means that if 80% or more of the student population is eligible for the free or reduced price meals program, then the school will be deemed to serve a disadvantaged community. Program guidelines define a small disadvantaged community as a municipality with a population of 20,000 persons or less, or a reasonably isolated and divisible segment of the larger municipality encompassing 20,000 persons or less, with a median household income that is less than 80% of the statewide annual MHI. A municipality is defined as a city, town, borough, county, parish, district, association, or other public body created by state law. A divisible segment of a larger municipality includes a school district or an individual school boundary. The next section outlines eligible project types. Our first eligible project type is installation or replacement of water bottle filling stations or drinking fountains equipped with or without water quality treatment devices. If a school is working to implement a permanent solution, there is also a provision for interim alternative water supplies. This includes purchases of temporary transfer water, hauled water, or bottled water. The next eligible project type would be various corrective action measures to address lead contamination. This could include installation, replacement, or repairs of drinking water fixtures and installation of point-of-use filtration treatment systems. Please note that major plumbing repairs or replacements are not eligible for funding. For example, this would include repairs to existing service lines, and that kind of work would not be eligible for reimbursement. Eligible project types also include point of use or point of entry drinking water treatment devices, and includes up to 3 years of replacement filters, operation and maintenance, and monitoring of the POE or POU device. For those of you who may not know, point of entry means a treatment device applied to the drinking water entering a building, and point of use means a treatment device applied to a single tap. Note that costs directly related to planning, design, and construction are also eligible for reimbursement. Engineering consultants will be available to assist in selection of devices and treatment system design, to oversee construction, and to hire contractors as needed. Lastly, grant recipients with projects that include treatment devices will be required to adopt an O&M plan subject to requirements set by the State Water Board. RCAC will be available to design O&M plans if required. Ineligible project types include drilling, replacement, repairs, or rehabilitation of wells, establishing connections to public water systems or new water sources, demonstration projects, or pilot studies. Next, we'll review the funding process. The application period will commence with a proposal solicitation notice that will be posted online on the program webpage. Applications will continue to be accepted until all funding has been awarded. The proposal solicitation notice will also be emailed to all interested parties on the Drinking Water for Schools electronic mailing list. Due to the significant need throughout the state, the maximum grant amount will be $100,000 per individual school and $1 million per eligible entity, with no individual affiliated school receiving more than $100,000. The minimum grant amount will be $25,000. And county offices of education are encouraged to apply on behalf of multiple small school districts within their jurisdictions. Due to the high anticipated need in small disadvantaged communities, funding awarded during the first 9 months after the proposal solicitation has been posted will be limited to projects for schools within or serving pupils from small DACs. Projects serving DACs of any size will be eligible after the first 9-month period, subject to availability of funds. Applicants with projects serving small DACs are highly encouraged to apply within this first 9-month period. The first way that the State Water Board will prioritize school projects serving small DACs is with this initial period reserved just for them. At least 50% of the funds will be provided for projects that benefit schools in or schools serving municipalities with a population that meets the definition of a small DAC, which we just covered on slide 9. The open solicitation period is tentatively scheduled to begin at the end of this month. The deadline for small DAC prioritization is estimated for June 2018. The deadline to encumber requested funds is June 30th of 2019. And the deadline to expend funding is scheduled for March 31st of 2021. LEAs are encouraged to subscribe to the State Water Board's email list to receive schedule updates, and we'll provide a registration link to sign up for this email list at the end of today's presentation. The funding application will consist of an online questionnaire and required attachments that can be submitted using the State Water Board's Financial Assistance Application Submittal Tool, or FAST system. The FAST application will be made available following issuance of the proposal solicitation notice. A complete questionnaire and demonstration of need are required and will include technical descriptions, budgets, and schedules. The application may be developed with the assistance of DFA, Division of Drinking Water Local Offices, or technical assistance providers. Once again, the draft application should be available on the State Water Board's webpage by the end of the month. And as I mentioned earlier, TA providers and DFA staff are available to assist in the application process. And here's the link to the web address for the FAST system. That's faast.waterboards.ca.gov, and you'll find this address in the program guidelines as well as on the program webpage, which leads us to technical assistance. RCAC has been awarded the technical assistance contract for this program to provide TA to eligible applicants. And everyone on the Agua for All team is very excited to be part of this beneficial program. At the end of the presentation, we'll provide a slide with the link to the TA request form, which includes instructions on how to submit your requests to DFA. This information is also available on the program webpage. As funding allows, RCAC and our subcontractors are available to provide TA to qualified applicants during the application process, after a grant award, and throughout the project implementation period. Assistance may include completing funding applications, inspecting project installations, monitoring and conducting O&M of POU and POE treatment systems for the first 3 years following installation. Our TA partners include Self-Help Enterprises, the Community Water Center, the Community Housing Improvement Program, and Caton Engineering Consulting. Now we'll take a few minutes to review the timeline of a project. First, the LEA starts the application process by identifying the need for the project, determining eligibility for funding, and identifying whether technical assistance is needed. If TA is needed, the LEA submits a request form to DFA, and the State Water Board makes a determination. Next, the LEA, State Board, TA provider, or contractor determines the type and location of water units and treatment needed and drafts solutions and cost estimates. A very important step in the process is for the school board to adopt a resolution to participate in the program, authorize a TA provider if needed, authorize the application for assistance to procure funding, and to document lack of access. Then the LEA submits the grant application using the FAST system. The state board makes a determination, and then plans may need to go through a review process. The state will then issue a grant agreement to be executed by the State Water Board and the LEA. Lastly, and the best part, the project is implemented and equipment is installed and maintained. The grant program also requires that all projects must address a documented need for improved access to safe drinking water. This section of the guidelines describes how need is defined and gives examples of ways that schools can document this need. Water quality can be considered impaired for many reasons. However, for the purpose of the grant program, priorities will be to address exceedances of maximum contaminant levels that are other than bacterial contamination. To ensure this priority is addressed, the program requires at least one MCL violation must have occurred within 3 years from the application date. Additionally, applicants should confirm that the water quality issue has not yet been remedied, nor will it be remedied imminently. Applicants must include confirmation of this with their applications. Information on MCL violations can be accessed from a school's water system. There are a number of ways to document impaired water quality, including the Division of Drinking Water Annual Compliance Report and Consumer Confidence Reports, public notifications, and lead sampling information, which are also all provided by a school's water system. Inadequate facilities may represent impaired access to safe drinking water, and access requires schools to have adequate drinking water facilities that are in good repair, meaning that facilities are maintained in a manner that ensures that they are safe, clean, and functional. Applicants who have documented impaired access to drinking water in a public disclosure will be deemed to have demonstrated a priority impairment. Documentation of impaired access may include a school's accountability report card, or SARC, a school board resolution stating inability to provide drinking water during meal times, or documentation of having fewer than one drinking fountain per 150 students. Other circumstances of impaired access may be available or evaluated by DFA on a case-by-case basis. Here's the slide I mentioned earlier with all the pertinent program links for request of technical assistance, program guidelines, the program webpage, the grant program email list. And if you registered for this presentation online, you can expect to receive a copy of the presentation later today, emailed by RCAC. You can also request a copy by sending an email to aguaforall@rcac.org, and I'll post that address before we wrap up our presentation. Again, for those of you who are joining us via webcast, you can submit your questions to dfa_grants@waterboards.ca.gov. And now Robbie and Darren will open up the discussion to participant questions.
Excuse me. Thank you, Jennifer. We're going to give it a couple minutes for questions to come through. We're monitoring this this email address, so maybe I don't know if any questions in the audience.
Okay,
we have a microphone as well.
I want to capture your questions for people who are on webcast.
Hi, thank you for the overview. My question is, well, I guess I have a couple, and maybe the best thing to do is give you a hypothetical. If you have a district that has addressed a contamination issue in the recent past, they spent a lot of money both providing drinking water in the interim, bottled water, while they implemented their changes, and then making major changes, renovations to their buildings to do away with old internal piping and faucets, fixtures, et cetera. Is there any way that a district like that has completed a project can apply to recoup some of the costs? The one that sort of stood out for me was the bottled water, because it's very ascertainable.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have received that question a couple times, and we don't really have a mechanism to do that. We have an eligible start date for a grant agreement, and that's basically something that we would negotiate after the funding award. So,
okay,
yeah.
So just to drive that home a little bit, if you had a district that today said, we have elevated lead and copper, we're switching to bottled water, and we're going to apply as soon as we can, the fact that they made that decision and sort of, I don't mean to, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or be combative about it, but they did the right thing. They did the protective thing, but they'll get punished for that.
Well, so I want to just make clear, as soon as they applied, it would take some time, but often we can establish an eligibility start date.
Okay.
Fairly soon. And we also, I would point out, we have our cleanup and abatement account.
Yep.
They have their emergency drinking water, and that they have an expedited process. So if if a district wants to move on that immediately, I think there would be some options.
Okay.
But again, there would be a couple weeks lag.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other question would just be on small disadvantaged. So I thought I heard you say, Jennifer, that an individual school, you can look at the boundaries of that school and define it that way. So.
Yeah. This issue it's a little bit complicated in the guidelines, but a small disadvantaged community can be defined at the city level, school district level, or within individual school boundaries.
Okay.
However, we have a set aside for municipalities, and we're considering municipalities only at the city level or the district level, if that makes sense. So if it's a very small district or a very small city, that's kind of what we're really trying to target, those communities. Whereas a larger district that has individual smaller communities and wants to apply as a small disadvantaged community with their school boundaries, that's fine, and we can make that determination. But there's a set aside for the other folks.
So if you had a district that is, I assume you're going off census data, right, for the count. So
correct, yeah.
Most
American
recent
Community
census
Survey
data puts it at, and I'm making this up, 30,000. So it's not small disadvantaged, but one of the impacted schools clearly draws, far fewer than 20,000. Would a school in that position be able to apply as small disadvantaged?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's the intent.
Okay.
There could be some issues that if it doesn't seem to be a logical, if it's just a carve out in the middle of a huge city, we may have some questions about that. But
Okay. Great.
But yeah, you can use the school boundaries.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Can you redefine the small DAC again?
Yes, it's based on demographic information, including population and median household income. So the median household income would need to be less than 80% of the statewide median household income, if that makes sense. And the population threshold is 20,000.
Did that answer your question?
Okay, so we got a question from Crystal from the online webcast. Her question is, how are small DACs being defined? Is there something similar to the DWR DAC web map available to help identify each district or school serving a small DAC?
So, this sort of ties into the question I just answered. We don't have a mapping tool. It's actually fairly easy if you can establish your small DAC status by city or by school district. And we have some guidance coming very soon, imminently, a matter of a week or two, that will kind of walk you through that. Now, it's a little more complicated when you try to define it at the school boundary level, because census data isn't available for those boundaries. But we can use some GIS tools and come up with a reasonable estimate for that situation. So that is coming soon to the website. Obviously, before the application period begins, that would be up. And myself, Ravi, we're available to answer those types of questions. And we do expect that we'll be helping folks with their determinations. Whether that means that we can make those determinations is going to be pending staff time.
So we got another question online. It's from David. If you or our community is not a small DAC or DAC or has no negative water reports in the last 3 years, would they still qualify? It's part one of their question.
Okay, I mean, if I understand, if the school is not serving a small disadvantaged community or a disadvantaged community, and that you stop there, they wouldn't be eligible.
And then the second part of their question was, when would be an ideal time frame if your district fits outside of these classifications to apply? So if you do not meet the small DAC or DAC eligibility requirement, we would suggest to go to our cleanup and abatement unit for any drinking water related types of concerns or projects.
Yeah, I mean, our cleanup and abatement unit has some funding sources. We also have our, some other programs. And so if it's not a fit for the Drinking Water for Schools program, definitely inquire whether there's something we can do.
And Darren, if you don't mind me interjecting for just a second, we also have a program at RCAC called Agua for Schools. So again, there's another opportunity for schools to write to the Agua for All at rcac.org program and ask them the same question, and we may have available funds
Great,
to offer
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, there's resources out there. This funding program, it's not a lot of money relative to the need in the state. And so, in the statute, it directs us to prioritize small DACs. We then did go ahead and limit it to, even though we wanted to let some of the larger communities apply, we limited it to disadvantaged communities.
So we got another question. You said that this is from Jeff Caldwell. You said that the grant money cannot be used for wells. Are water storage tanks eligible for funding? So that's correct. We cannot use grant funds for wells. For storage tanks, you would need to have DSA approvals from what we are understanding. That's going to require a DSA review. So from what we are understanding, that this might take a while. Yeah, I would suggest if to apply to our cleanup and abatement funding source.
I'll just add on, our cleanup and abatement account, we have a drought side and a contamination side, and without going into everything in gory detail, there's some complementary aspects to the programs. And so that's one reason we have some ineligible project types. We have kind of more appropriate funding sources. So if you do have a problem like that, let us know, because we're all in the same unit. Cleanup and abatement is also administering this program. So for something like for a storage tank or a well rehabilitation, we do have funding for that. And any public agency would be eligible.
And Darren, can schools go on to the FAST system to request that kind of assistance? No. How would they go about doing that?
So if they have questions about which program they might be eligible for, I would say to shoot emails to Darren or myself. And our emails are actually on our webpage for Drinking Water for Schools. And you can even go on the Cleanup and Abatement website, which has the rest of our units' information and emails. And we can always help direct these applicants and interested parties to which source of funding might be better for them.
Thank you.
And I just want to make a comment for this DFA grants email. This is only for our webcast now, so please don't submit emails after our webinar is over and this questionnaire is over. We've been receiving a lot of emails coming through this. This is just specifically from 1 to 3 for today, and if you have comments or questions, please email Darren or myself on our personal emails with the water boards. And just want to make that clear.
Or you could always reach out to RCAC at aguaforall@rcac.org with program questions.
Yeah, we're real easy to get a hold of. Go to our program webpage. All of our contact info is at the bottom. Sign up for our email list. My phone number, if anybody wants to grab a pen who's listening, is 916-319-9123. So that's Darren Pedrosia, 916-319-9123. Give me a call, and I generally can take a call or call you back if I'm busy.
So I'm with San Diego Unified School District, so it sounds like we cannot apply for the small DAC portion. Can we still apply for technical assistance in the hope that there's funding after the 9 months?
Well, so you said San Diego Unified School District? Okay, so it's a huge district, obviously, but remember that you may have communities that we can define at the school boundary level. So if the school serves a community of less than 20,000 and fits that demographic profile, the median household income, I don't know how much of your area would be considered disadvantaged. So that's an open question. The technical assistance for the first 9 months is going to go to small DACs. So it's sort of, you have to make that determination, then apply for the technical assistance. And so, there'd be a waiting period.
But that doesn't mean you can't apply after the initial 9 months.
Okay, so we got another question. This is also from David. What if our district serves 4 different communities, 2 of which are DACs? Could we qualify for just those DACs, or would we count all of our communities as a whole? You would just want to apply for your DACs, communities that relate to your schools. Schools that are not in a disadvantaged community or serving a disadvantaged community would not be eligible for our program.
I guess we could wait a few more minutes, see if any more questions come in. I guess there was just maybe one comment. Some of the slides make reference to Division of Financial Assistance helping applicants with applications, and we want to do that, and we will do that. But in terms of working on your applications, as complete as you can get those is gonna be best, because we do have limited staff. We actually technically don't have staff for this program, so we're doing the best we can. But I don't want to give the impression that would be your best course. If you can complete the application, come up with a good, solid project, and submit a complete application, that would be ideal. We know that that's difficult.
But if applicants do need assistance, they can complete the request form.
Yes.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
And that request form for the technical assistance is on a website with our Prop 1, as you can see on our webcast right now. So you would go to that web page, which goes straight to where the technical assistance request form will be. And once we get that form, we would evaluate to see if you are eligible for this program, and then hand it off to our RCAC, our technical assistant providers.
Yeah, but RCAC is presumably could get busy as well. So anything that folks can do on their own, or maybe some quick phone calls to myself, or so we just want to try to push these along from on multiple fronts.
And I think that if we could keep the lines open for another 5 minutes, there is some lag time between when we speak and when participants can hear what we're saying. So it's not 100% live.
Okay.
Absolutely. We can.
We could also answer emails after we wrap up, too. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Certainly.
But please, if we wrap up, please email my email, which is ravinder.jawanda@waterboards.ca.gov, or Darren's email, which is darren.pedroja@waterboards.ca.gov. We only have limited access to the DFA email account, so I will go back to make sure if we did have any emails sent after we finished our presentation, to make sure we get everyone's questions answered.
And both Ravi and Darren's email addresses are on the program website.
Yep, right at the bottom.
Great.
Okay, so we got another question from David. So if we would want to apply for the small DACs in our district right away when the application is available, not sure if I understand the question, but I'm thinking he's asking when they should apply. And yes, you would fit into the small DAC application submittal time, which is the first 9 months, and we're hoping to get our application out by the end of this month. So you can submit it as soon as that is up. We'll have our application on our webpage, and if you're on our LIRIS email, we will be sending out a LIRIS email to let everyone know that it's available. and for you all to apply and submit.
So that initial 9-month period doesn't begin until the solicitation process is
Right.
published.
Yeah, I mean, we just wanted to give the districts with, fewer resources a little bit of a period where that there would be, fewer applications for us to process and, less competition. So.
Right, because $9.5 million sounds like a lot, but when you consider how many disadvantaged schools there are in the state of California, it's not going to go as far as we hope.
Right. I guess if we have a few minutes just to kill some time or see if any more questions come in, I would want to just impress upon folks listening, if you're out there, to go ahead and read our guidelines. That's going to give you a big leg up on eligibility and really a lot of the things that were covered here today. But those are the actual rules and procedures that our board adopted, and that's what we're going to refer to on any sort of gray areas or complicated questions. We're just going to look at those guidelines and see what they're dictating. And there's just a lot of information. They're only 8 pages or something. It's not a lot of text, so it won't take you too long. And if you are familiar with those guidelines before and during the application process, you're going to save yourself a lot of headache and time.
All right, are we about ready to wrap up?
That's all I got. If there's no more questions coming in, then I think we hope that everyone listening applies and call us with any questions.
All right, and thank you to everyone for attending today's Drinking Water for Schools workshop.